There are 7 nerve centers, there are 7 chakras that rise from the base of the spine to the top, which are the 7 levels which a person walks in order to find that which is the pineal or enlightenment. It's all part of the Bible. It's all part of the ancient wisdom which is covered up in numbers. Look at the number 9. The number 9 means human consciousness. You can solve some riddles. You can solve the identity of the beast. The identity of the beast is you and me. It is your lower mind. It is that part of you that threatens you, that part of you that convinces you you're not going to make it past tomorrow, that part of you that says, well, everything's okay now, but what are you going to do if, and what are you going to say when you meet so-and-so next week, and all of this stuff that keeps you rattling and shaking and all of those things within you going nuts. That's the beast. That's hell.
What would you do if you discovered that the deepest secrets of your existence had been intentionally hidden from you? What if the book of Revelation, so feared and misunderstood, was actually a coded map of the power dormant within your own body? For centuries, religious elites have kept this knowledge out of reach, distorting sacred truths to maintain control over society and distance you from your true essence. But now, these secrets are resurfacing, ready to challenge everything you think you know about spirituality and purpose. Imagine for a moment that the 2 witnesses in Revelation are not distant figures from an apocalyptic scene, but fundamental parts of your being, the pineal and pituitary glands, and that all the symbolism of battles and destruction actually represents your internal struggle for harmony and spiritual ascension. What would happen if you could access this knowledge and transform your perception of life? As modern science begins to unravel the mysteries of consciousness, the hidden truth in ancient scriptures is re-emerging, carrying with it the promise of unprecedented personal and societal transformation. Are you prepared to look beyond superficial interpretations and discover what has truly been kept from you? For centuries, humanity has sought to understand the unknown, explore the mysteries surrounding existence, and find a greater purpose. From the ancient rituals of Egyptian civilizations to the sacred practices of Eastern temples, a common belief permeated all cultures. Within each human being lies a latent power, a divine spark waiting to be awakened. However, this knowledge has been erased, distorted, and in many cases deliberately kept secret by religious elites. Among those seeking to recover these truths is William Donahue, a respected scholar of spirituality who has dedicated his life to interpreting ancient Christian texts through a new lens, revealing meanings that have been forgotten or deliberately concealed. Donahue is known for exploring the Bible through a symbolic and mystical perspective, suggesting that behind the words are profound teachings about the mind and spirituality. The Bible, especially the book of Revelation, is a notable example of how original meanings may have been distorted. To most, Revelation represents a vision of impending destruction and divine punishment. However, Donahue argues that this interpretation is only part of the story. According to him, the book, when read with attention to its symbols, is a coded guide to the elevation of consciousness. The 2 witnesses mentioned are not distant entities from a tale of horror, but representations of the pineal and pituitary glands, spiritual command centers that enable the expansion of the mind and perception of higher realities. What does this mean for you? The battles and conflicts described in Revelation are not about an external war, but the internal struggle that takes place within each of us. This is the battle between the ego, the carnal mind that seeks control and power, and the spirit which yearns for peace, understanding, and transcendence. The images of destruction and rebirth are metaphors that reflect the personal journey each human being undertakes in search of enlightenment and balance. But why then were these interpretations suppressed? Donahue suggests that religious elites kept this knowledge in the shadows because it could empower individuals, freeing them from the need for institutional mediation. The central message of many of these scriptures, according to him, is the discovery of an inner power that can be accessed through self-knowledge and meditation. a practice that activates the pineal gland, the so-called gateway to the spiritual realm. Modern science is beginning to explore this concept, discovering that this small gland plays an essential role in perception and altered states of consciousness. This convergence between science and spirituality opens doors to a new way of seeing the world and oneself. The quest to understand the scriptures is no longer just a matter of blind faith, but a practical journey where each symbol becomes a key to unlocking human potential. If Revelation, as Donahue suggests, is a representation of the internal battle for consciousness, then what else might be hidden between the lines of these ancient texts? And what could happen when these suppressed truths are brought to light, allowing you to access a level of understanding that transcends the material and the obvious? The key to understanding the hidden meanings of the Bible lies in the art of deciphering what has been left between the lines beyond what is obvious at first glance. The Book of Revelation is perhaps the richest example of this practice. With his unique approach, William Donahue invites us to look beyond the literal text and explore the layers of symbolism that speak directly to the mind and soul. According to Donahue, the two witnesses mentioned are not distant prophets foretelling disasters, but essential parts of our own bodies, the pineal and pituitary glands. These are the spiritual command centers, the portals through which humans can access higher realities and expand their consciousness. Why then were these deeper interpretations sidelined? The answer lies in how religion consolidated itself as a tool of power and control. Religious elites quickly understood that maintaining a literal interpretation of the scriptures was an effective way to ensure that the masses remained under a narrative of fear and submission. The idea that humans could access the divine on their own, without the intercession of an external authority, posed a threat to the established structure. But these truths never disappeared completely. In the cryptic passages of Revelation, such as the battle between good and evil, Donahue sees not an external confrontation, but the eternal internal struggle between the ego and the soul. The ego, fed by desires and fear, tries to maintain control, while the soul seeks light, peace, and transcendence. The vivid images of destruction and rebirth are metaphors for the process of spiritual death and rebirth that occurs when the human mind is confronted with the truth about itself. This challenging and symbolism-rich view leads us to reflect: what else could be hidden in texts so widely debated and yet so little understood? Modern science, with its advancements in the study of consciousness and neuroscience, begins to give credibility to what these ancient texts have suggested for millennia. The pineal gland, often called the third eye, is now recognized as a structure that regulates sleep and wake cycles, but is also associated with altered states of perception. Could it be mere coincidence that the ancients attributed to it the ability to connect humans to the divine? Donahue believes that by re-evaluating these symbols and understanding the battle between ego and spirit described in Revelation, each individual can begin a journey of self-discovery and elevation. And as you delve deeper into this search, you realize that the true battle was never outside of you, but within. This brings us to the exploration of numerology and the hidden meanings that numbers carry in the scriptures, a key that promises to unlock even more doors to understanding. When discussing biblical numerology, many consider it a mere mystical detail, something irrelevant amid the grand stories of the Bible. But for scholars like William Donahue, numbers are codes that reveal profound and hidden truths about the mind and spirituality. The number 3, for example, is often associated with resurrection and new beginnings. Jesus rose after 3 days, and Jonah spent 3 days in the belly of the great fish. But these are not just historical events or isolated miracles. They represent the idea of rebirth, of transcending the limitations of mind and body to reach a higher state of being. Another number that stands out is 7. Known as the number of divine intervention, it symbolizes the moment when higher forces step in to change the course of life. The 7 laps around Jericho, which culminated in the fall of its walls, are not just a story of military victory. They reflect the cycle of challenges and interventions that occur in each person's spiritual journey. When the mind is on the verge of succumbing to the pressures of the ego, that is when a greater force, represented by the number 7, intervenes and transforms the situation. However, it is the number 9 that intrigues Donahue and other spiritual scholars the most. It is seen as the number of human consciousness, a key to understanding the internal struggle described in the scriptures. The sum of the days and periods mentioned in Revelation, such as 42 months and 1,260 days, always leads to the number 9. What does this mean? According to Donahue, the number 9 represents the state of consciousness needed to understand the nature of our internal battle. It symbolizes the cycle of learning and introspection everyone faces on the spiritual journey. And what about the dreaded number 666? Widely known as the symbol of the beast, it has been used to instill fear and reinforce an interpretation of eternal damnation. However, Donahue offers a different perspective. 666 is not a number to be feared, but a reflection of the carnal mind and the human ego. It is the manifestation of our darkest parts, those that foster fear, doubt, and conflict. The true challenge is not to fear 666, but to recognize it as a part of oneself that needs to be understood and overcome. Only then can one ascend to a higher state of consciousness, represented by the number 9, where true inner peace is found. These numbers, when seen under the light of symbolism, stop being mere figures in ancient stories and become powerful tools for self-knowledge. They invite you to look inward, to question what is at stake in your own journey, and to consider that the scriptures conceal in every detail a guide to personal transcendence. As we delve deeper, the question arises: how do these messages connect to the struggle between the ego and higher consciousness that Revelation describes in its most challenging metaphors? At the heart of Revelation and the interpretations proposed by scholars like William Donahue is the constant battle between the carnal mind, dominated by the ego, and the higher consciousness, which represents true spiritual essence. When people think of 666, they often imagine an external entity, a demonic threat. However, according to Donahue, this interpretation only scratches the surface of what it truly means. The number 666 is a mirror, a representation of the lower mind, that part of us consumed by fear, doubt, and desire. It is the beast that everyone carries, the voice that whispers limitations and questions whether it is possible to transcend one's own nature. On the other hand, the number 144,000 inches mentioned in Revelation, commonly associated with a select group of the saved, symbolizes something deeper. Donahue explains that instead of representing a literal number of the chosen, this number is a code pointing to those who have reached higher consciousness, the elevated spiritual state that opposes the ego's dominion. The sum of the digits of 144, 1 plus 4 plus 4, results in 9, the number of consciousness. This reinforces the idea that the salvation described in the scriptures is not a distant promise, but an internal experience accessible to anyone who seeks to rise above their own mental limitations. This internal struggle between ego and consciousness is at the core of Revelation's message. The visions of destruction and rebirth are not prophecies of a catastrophic end, but a metaphor for the process of personal transformation. The ego, with its layers of protection and fear, must die for higher consciousness to flourish. This symbolic death is not easy. It is accompanied by internal resistance, thoughts that try to convince you that change is impossible, that the comfort zone is safer. But just as Revelation narrates the ultimate victory of good over evil, the internal battle can also be won. The path to this victory, according to Donahue, involves practices that go beyond simply reading the scriptures. Meditation is one such practice, a way to quiet the mind and allow the voice of higher consciousness to manifest. During meditation, the ego tries to impose itself, bringing up daily worries, anxieties, and distractions. But it is precisely at this moment that the battle takes place. The effort to silence this internal noise is what allows the light of consciousness to expand. This is where modern science comes in, supporting these ancient practices by showing that meditation alters brain patterns, fostering states of calm and deep perception. What happens when you win this internal battle? The answer is not found in a promise of a distant paradise, but in a personal transformation that reflects in how you live and interact with the world around you. It is the return to a state of pure consciousness, the heaven that has always been within you, waiting to be rediscovered. This journey leads to a crucial point. How can these practices, such as meditation and understanding symbols, open the doors to the activation of the body's spiritual centers, preparing you for spiritual ascension? We reach the point where metaphors, numbers, and symbols converge to reveal a profound truth. The key to spiritual transformation lies within you. William Donahue, in his interpretations, suggests that the true meaning of Revelation is not the destruction of the external world, but the destruction of the internal world dominated by the ego. It is the breaking down of the mental barriers that separate humans from their divine essence. In this process, meditation emerges as a powerful practice, a tool to quiet the carnal mind and allow higher consciousness to manifest. But what really happens when you practice this surrender of the ego? Meditation is not just a pause, but an act of surrender. When you close your eyes and silence the thoughts that constantly clamor for your attention, the pineal gland, mentioned by Donahue as one of the body's spiritual centers, begins to play its role. This organ, often neglected or misunderstood, is described in ancient texts as the third eye, a portal to the divine. Modern science has made discoveries that reinforce this ancient wisdom, showing that the pineal gland produces substances like melatonin, which regulates sleep cycles, and possibly others that affect perception and consciousness. Donahue highlights that during deep meditation, the activation of the pineal gland can create a state of expanded perception. In this state, you are not just aware of the world around you, but connected to something greater, a universal intelligence that transcends time and space. The Bible, with its wealth of symbolism, alludes to this in passages mentioning the inner light or the all-seeing eye. But why were these truths hidden, veiled by layers of interpretations that reinforce fear and control? The answer, according to Donahue, lies in the understanding that an awakened human, aware of their internal power, is impossible to control. Over the centuries, religious institutions have focused on literal readings and doctrines that promote dependence. They omit the transformative potential of meditation, introspection, and self-knowledge, practices that can free the mind from the ego's grip and make room for higher consciousness. When you practice meditation, you give the 10% of the carnal mind, the spiritual tithe, and allow the 90% of the intuitive mind, connected to the divine, to take control. This is the true practice of tithing, according to ancient traditions, far beyond material donations. But how does this reflect in daily life? Imagine a moment when you are overwhelmed by worries and anxieties. The ego whispers that the worst is yet to come and that you are not capable of overcoming challenges. At that moment, practicing meditation and directing your energy to the pineal gland is an act of resilience and courage. It is a way to challenge the lies the carnal mind tells and make room for the truth of higher consciousness. The ancients knew that by activating this spiritual center, human beings not only freed themselves from the bonds of fear, but also began to consciously and intentionally shape their reality. Science, in its most recent studies, begins to endorse these practices. Research in neuroscience shows that regular meditation can modify brain patterns, promoting calm, focus, and empathy. But more than that, it paves the way for experiences of expanded consciousness, something that ancient mystics already described as an encounter with the divine. When Jesus in the biblical text says, "If your eye is single, your whole body will be full of light," he was referring to this practice of activating the spiritual eye and allowing the light of higher consciousness to permeate every aspect of life. What do you experience when you reach this state? A new way of seeing the world, not divided between fear and hope, but as a harmonious whole, where the mind, body, and spirit work together. From that point, you realize that the images of catastrophes and rebirths in Revelation are not predictions of an end, but invitations to be reborn in life, in consciousness, and in purpose. And if true world transformation begins with the internal transformation of each individual, this is the mystery that still echoes between the lines of ancient scriptures and, when understood, leads to the final question: how to continue this journey and use this connection with higher consciousness to shape not just your life, but also the world around you. Throughout this journey into the depths of symbols and hidden messages in the scriptures, it becomes clear that true transformation begins within each of us. William Donahue and other spiritual scholars remind us that the key to accessing the divine does not lie in external dogmas or the literal interpretation of words, but in the ability to understand and activate the body's spiritual centers. The practice of meditation and the understanding of the pineal gland as a gateway to higher consciousness is only the start of this exploration. It is as if every symbol, every number, were a whisper from the universe, inviting you to look inward and find answers that no institution could provide. But what do you do with this understanding? That is the real question. When you begin to see that the battle of revelation is your own internal struggle between ego and consciousness, you realize you are on an endless journey where each stage reveals a new level of understanding. The spiritual tithing, giving the carnal mind so that the divine mind may flourish, is not a one-time act, but a continuous practice. It is a reminder that spirituality is not a destination, but a process of constant rebirth. Science, with its growing investigation into the effects of meditation and the function of the pineal gland, confirms that this pursuit is not just philosophical, but real and tangible. Studies show that regular meditative practices can alter the brain, increasing empathy, focus, and resilience. What was once seen only as part of mysticism is now supported by scientific discoveries. This is the bridge that unites ancient knowledge and modern science, offering you the chance to integrate these teachings into your daily life. Imagine living in a state of full consciousness, where fear of the future and daily anxieties lose the power to control your actions. This is the invitation that the ancient scriptures, with their rich and complex metaphors, have always extended to humanity. Donahue asserts that when you start meditating and connecting with the deepest part of yourself, you begin to see life as it truly is, a field of infinite possibilities where the mind is both the key and the door. And perhaps at this point in the journey, you wonder where to begin. How can you bring this practice and knowledge into your routine in a practical and consistent way? The answer lies in the simplicity of meditation and the intention to connect with the higher part of yourself. That's where appropriate tools can make all the difference. Guided practices, sounds that resonate with your being's frequency, and techniques to quiet the mind can turn this quest into a tangible, transformative experience. Every change begins with understanding your role as a co-creator, and the only way to connect with this divine intelligence is through meditation. We have developed a set of audio tools to help you access this higher state of consciousness. To learn more and gain immediate access, click the link on the screen or in the comments. If this video resonated with you, write in the comments, "It made sense to me."